Have you ever wondered what really keeps a narcissist up at night? What makes them regret things to the core? It's not the screaming matches, and it's not the harsh accusations. What haunts them the most are the actions they never believed you were strong enough to take. In the twisted world of a narcissist, they're convinced you will always be trapped in their web. Every emotional reaction you have, whether anger, disappointment, or heartbreak, works like a rope, tying you tighter to their power game. They're certain you'll never dare to cut that rope. But then, one day, you do the very thing they never saw coming. You stay silent, you stay calm, and you slowly slip free from their toxic control. That's when they finally come face to face with their greatest fear, losing their emotional fuel and losing someone they can never replace. In this video, we'll uncover 6 powerful strategies, moves that may look simple on the surface, but are strong enough to push a narcissist into deep regret. And more importantly, this isn't about revenge. This is about reclaiming your freedom, your peace, and your happiness. So, are you ready to flip the script? If you are, sit back, let your mind settle, and join me on this journey that will force the narcissist to confront something they were never prepared for. 1. Be as cold as ice. In the twisted world of a narcissist, your emotions are the most vital fuel for their inflated yet empty ego. They don't approach you for love or genuine connection, but to exploit. They plant chaos into your life, stage conflicts like scripted dramas, and then step back just to watch your reactions. To them, you're not a whole person with value of your own. You're simply a supplier of emotional energy. Every burst of anger, every tear, every sigh of despair is proof to them that they still hold complete control. A narcissist lives like a parasite. A parasite cannot survive on its own. It must feed off a host. Narcissists are the same. They only feel truly alive when they're feeding on your emotions. If you get angry, they smile, believing they still matter. If you're miserable, they see it as proof you still revolve around them. If you beg, that's their greatest thrill, because you've accepted the role of a secondary character in the play they're directing. Every reaction you give only reinforces their delusion that they're the center of the universe and that you'll never leave. But everything changes the moment you choose a different path, becoming cold as ice. What happens when one day you simply stop reacting? No anger, no tears, no begging, no emotional response at all. That's when you do the one thing they never anticipated. In that moment, their power begins to crumble. Like a flame deprived of oxygen, their power game slowly dies out. They become confused because they can't read you, panicked because they've lost their supply for their hollow ego. Being cold as ice doesn't mean you're numb, heartless, or incapable of love. It means you've built an emotional shield, a protective barrier against manipulation. You stop giving away reactions to someone who only seeks to exploit them. Instead, you save your emotions for people who deserve them, for real connections, for experiences that bring peace and joy. You start telling yourself, my emotions are precious, and I will not waste them on toxic games anymore. Imagine someone who loves recording your reactions just to post them online. They deliberately provoke you, knowing the more upset you get, the more content they have to brag about. If you lose it, they win. But if you stay calm and simply smile, their game ends instantly. A narcissist works the same way. When you no longer react, they lose their audience. When you stay calm, they lose their script. When you stop responding, their performance collapses. The power of this strategy is that you don't need to argue, explain, or take revenge. You only need to master yourself. Each time you're tempted to type out a long emotional message, stop. Each time you want to scream in frustration, take a deep breath. Each time you want to beg or plead, remember that's exactly what they want. Your restraint isn't weakness, it's strength. It's proof that you've reclaimed ownership of your emotion. A narcissist will never openly admit defeat, but deep down, when they can no longer provoke a reaction, they feel stripped of power. They'll try every trick to reignite your emotions, sometimes sweet, sometimes cruel, sometimes playing the victim. But if you hold steady, If you remain cold as ice, they'll eventually realize their old tactics no longer work, and in that moment, for the very first time, you become the one controlling the game. Most importantly, this isn't about teaching them a lesson. The truth is, most narcissists rarely ever change. The goal of being cold as ice isn't to punish them, it's to free yourself. When you stay calm, you refuse to be dragged into their endless emotional whirlpool. You stop living in the chaos they create and return to your own world, where you are in charge, where you are at peace. This step is not easy. In the beginning, your silence will provoke extreme reactions. They'll try to bait you, even smear you, just to pull you back into their orbit. But if you stay grounded, that coldness becomes a quiet power. It's like unplugging a machine. At first it runs on momentum, but soon it shuts down completely. No reaction, no script, no audience. The narcissist slowly falls into the emptiness of their own making. Becoming cold as ice isn't a declaration of war, it's a declaration of freedom. It's how you claim that your emotions are no longer entertainment in someone else's hands. It's a small act, but it flips the entire game. And for a narcissist, the moment they realize you've cut off the emotional fuel they've always depended on, that is the very first time they're forced to face the harshest truth of all. They no longer hold power over your life. 2. Gift them the power of silence. If there's one thing a narcissist craves more than anything, it's attention. They need to be heard, to be seen, to be responded to. It doesn't matter if the response is positive or negative, as long as you're reacting, they feel alive. To them, you're the unwilling audience in a play where they're both the director and the star. They want your applause when they act sweet, your heartbreak when they turn cold, your arguments when they deliberately provoke you, because all of it confirms one thing: they still control your emotions. But imagine one day you hand them the very thing they fear the most: silence. Silence isn't careless indifference, it's a conscious choice. You decide not to respond, not to argue, not to send endless texts trying to explain, not to chase after a relationship that was only ever a stage for manipulation. In that moment, you do the one thing they never expected. You take away their microphone, switch off the spotlight, and leave them stranded on an empty stage with no audience. Narcissists are used to wielding the silent treatment as a weapon. When they go quiet, it's meant to make you anxious, insecure, desperate to apologize and pull them back in. Their silence has been a tool they've used countless times to manipulate your emotions. But when you return that silence to them, the game instantly flips. They panic because this was never part of their script. Their minds start racing with questions. Why aren't you reacting? What are you thinking? Are you preparing to expose them? Have you already found someone else they can't control? In the warped logic of a narcissist, they believe everyone is as selfish and scheming as they are. So when you go silent, they don't see it as you choosing peace. They see it as proof you must be plotting against them. Their insecurity spikes, and suddenly the director becomes the one living in fear and doubt. This is the true power of silence. It doesn't use words, yet it leaves them completely disoriented, like a wild animal trapped in darkness, unsure where the danger will come from. Still, it's crucial to remember, the purpose of silence is not to turn it into another mind game, and it's not about revenge. If you use silence purely to hurt them, you've fallen into their same trap, using manipulation as a weapon. The silence I'm talking about comes from maturity and inner freedom. It isn't built on anger, but on the desire for peace. It isn't to punish, it's to protect. When you choose silence, you give yourself space to heal, to breathe, to regain balance. In that silence, you're no longer dragged into endless arguments, constant texting, or emotional manipulation. You begin to hear your own voice again, instead of just the noise from someone else. And the more you listen to yourself, the more you realize this silence isn't emptiness, it's the beginning of freedom. Think of it like this. Imagine someone knocking on your door every single day, demanding you come out, talk, obey. In the past, You always answered, sometimes to argue, sometimes to plead, sometimes to explain. But one day, you stop answering. The door stays closed, they pound harder, and you stay quiet. That's when the fear sets in for them. They fear because they no longer know what's happening inside that house. And little by little, it's they who are tormented by the silence you've chosen. This is when you reclaim the upper hand. Silence becomes a fortress they cannot enter. It protects you from being emotionally read, from being pulled back into their false dramas. It leaves them off balance, while you steadily regain confidence and self-control. With every day you hold your silence, their power weakens, while your inner strength grows. But once again, it's important to stress, this silence is not a game. It isn't about proving you're smarter or showing you can manipulate better. It's simply a way to break free. The silence is for you, not for them. It's space to heal, to nurture peace, to step out of the toxic cage you once felt trapped in. When you go silent, you're sending a powerful message. I'm no longer part of your play. And in that moment, the narcissist is forced to face the very thing they've been running from all along, the emptiness inside themselves. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront their loneliness, their fear of abandonment, and the lack of real worth they've been hiding for so long. When you give them silence, you don't just strip away their power, you give yourself a gift, freedom. Freedom from psychological games, freedom from insecurity, freedom to rediscover yourself. And in that silence, you uncover the truth. What they've lost isn't just control over you, it's a person they will never be able to replace. 3. Create distance to keep them in a controlled state. Narcissists are creatures of extremes. One day they can act gentle and overly attentive as if you are the very center of their universe, but the moment something displeases them, they flip. Suddenly aggressive, controlling, and demeaning. They swing back and forth like a pendulum, one moment dripping with honey, the next spitting venom. This constant swing keeps you anxious, never sure what's coming next. You end up trapped in an emotional cycle, unable to stand still, unable to predict. But what makes this cycle so dangerous is that the closer you are to them, the easier it is to get pulled into their unstable rhythm. When they're sweet, you're tempted to believe things might finally change. When they're hostile, you react defensively and get dragged into conflict. Over and over you're pulled from one extreme to the other, like a puppet on strings, and the one thing you must do to escape this game is create distance. Distance isn't just physical space, it's also emotional and mental space. When you create distance, it's like stepping out of the storm to watch it from a safe place. You're no longer spun around by the whirlwinds of emotions they deliberately stir up. You can clearly see what they're doing, why they're doing it, and most importantly, you regain the power to choose how you respond instead of being pulled along. Here's something interesting. People often reveal their true selves when they feel safe and familiar. A snail only comes out of its shell when it senses no danger. Humans aren't much different. When a narcissist feels you're predictable, easy to control, and always available, they drop the mask and reveal their worst side. Control, contempt, aggression. But when they're new in your life, they put on their most charming, sweet, magnetic performance just to win the right to step inside your world. That's why creating distance is essential. When you step back, you take away the easy access they once had. They can no longer lash out at you whenever they want, nor lull you with sweet words so easily. You begin to set clear boundaries, the things you will never tolerate, the lies you will never believe, and the behaviors you will never excuse. This distance works like a frame around yourself. Inside this frame, they can't thrash around like before, nor impose their same old tricks. When they come on too sweet, you don't melt, you calmly step back. When they come on too harsh, you don't fight yourself into exhaustion, you walk away. Slowly, you keep them in a neutral state, not too hot, not too cold. It's a zone they rarely stay in willingly, but one they're forced to remain in if they want any connection with you at all. Now, this doesn't mean you can change a narcissist's nature. They'll still try to swing, still try to break through your boundaries. The difference is, you're no longer passive. You now have a shield called distance. Distance allows you to observe without being pulled in. It helps you see the bigger picture, not just the fragments they want to magnify. A simple example, imagine watching a play. If you sit right in the front row, every movement of the actor overwhelms you. They seem larger than life, their words pierce you directly, and sometimes you even forget it's just theatre. But if you sit farther back, with some separation, you see the whole stage. You notice the props, the set, the background. You know it's just a performance. Creating distance from a narcissist works the same way. But once you're far enough, you realize their behavior is just a repetitive act, not reality. And that's when your strength returns. You stop reacting on impulse. You start responding with awareness. You're no longer pulled into extremes. You keep your balance. The narcissist may keep swinging, but you don't. You stay steady, standing firm within the frame you've built. This also sends a powerful message. You will not accept disrespect. You will not excuse abuse, control, or belittlement. If they want a place in your life, they must at least meet the bare minimum of respect. Even if their adjustment is only superficial, it still creates safer space for you. And most importantly, you prove to yourself that you don't need to accept toxicity just to keep a relationship alive. So distance isn't meaningless separation, it's a way to reclaim power. It's a declaration that no one gets to cross your boundaries. It's how you protect your mental space, keeping it clean, healthy, and at peace. When a narcissist realizes they can no longer drag you into their emotional whirlpool, they're forced to change tactics. They may try to lure you back with sweetness, but you know how to step away. They may try to scare you with anger, but you know how to withdraw. They may try every trick in the book, but you are no longer a puppet to be pulled on strings. And in your calm, steady presence, you take back the power. The final truth is this: you cannot change a narcissist, but you can change how you face them. You cannot stop their swings, but you can create distance so you don't get pulled along. You cannot control their behavior, but you can absolutely control your own reactions. And when you do, you reclaim freedom for your mind, peace for your heart, and strength for your life. 4. Cut off all contact. There's a hard truth most people eventually have to accept, no matter how painful. You cannot maintain any healthy connection with a narcissist. They don't change overnight, and in most cases, they never change at all. Even when they appear tender, remorseful, or promise to do better, it's usually just a temporary act designed to pull you back into the same destructive cycle. Staying in contact with them is like reopening your front door to a storm you work so hard to barricade against. That's why the most necessary and decisive step is this: cut off all contact. No contact is not some vague concept, it's a clear, practical decision. You block their number, cut off their emails, delete them from social media, but it can't stop there. A narcissist will use any channel possible to slip back into your life. They might send messages through an obscure app like a music platform, a payment service, or even through mutual friends or family. That's why no contact means shutting down every possible pathway they could use to re-enter your world. At first, this might feel cruel. You once loved them, hoped for them, gave them chance after chance. But understand this: no contact is not revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's about you. It's a declaration that your mental safety and peace come first. Staying in contact only prolongs the pain and keeps the door open for more manipulation. But when you cut off every line of communication, you're sending yourself a powerful message. I deserve to be protected. I deserve to be free. In the first days of no contact, it may feel like you're leaving behind a part of yourself. There will be moments when you're tempted to unblock them, to send just one short message, to check how they're doing. That's the emotional addiction talking. The imprint of a distorted bond they've been cultivating in you for so long. But that feeling is exactly why no contact matters so much. It's like breaking free from a drug. Painful, exhausting but absolutely necessary for recovery, and once you make it past those early withdrawals, you'll feel a relief like never before. The remarkable thing is this: when you truly cut off contact, your world begins to change. You no longer wake up with that constant dread of what they'll do today, what they'll text, whether they'll disappear or suddenly reappear. You start to redirect your energy back to yourself, to the simple but priceless things: a quiet morning coffee, a genuine conversation with a friend, an uninterrupted hour of reading without being ambushed by controlling messages. Those things were always there, but only after closing the door on their intrusion can you finally see them. Some people fear that no contact is too extreme, that maybe there's still hope to fix things. But remember this: a narcissist doesn't love you in the way you hope. They love the power they have over you. They love the reactions you give. They love seeing your world orbit around theirs. When you leave, what they miss is not you, it's the control they've lost. Holding on to contact only keeps you trapped in an endless loop of false hope and disappointment. No contact is a statement. It says, "I am no longer your puppet." It's how you reclaim autonomy, reclaim your space. It's the door you close on the past so that you can open another door to the future. The very moment you firmly block them on every platform, you send yourself a message louder than words. I deserve peace. I will no longer carry someone who never truly changes. Of course, it won't be easy. They may come back, trying to break your decision. They might play the part of the repentant, sending heartfelt apologies, even pretending to suffer just to trigger your compassion. Or they may switch to anger, attacks, even threats, anything to make you reopen that door. But remember, none of it comes from love. It all comes from panic at losing control. And if you stay firm, that panic will eventually burn itself out. The beauty lies here. Once you cut off contact, you begin to heal. No more cycles of manipulation, no more emotional highs and crashes, no more tears shed for someone who only takes. You'll discover you have more energy, more time, more peace than you ever imagined. You'll learn to love yourself again, to invest in relationships that are real, and to enjoy a life free of toxic shadows. In the end, no contact is not a defensive move. It's an act of liberation. It declares that you're strong enough to let go, brave enough to protect yourself, and wise enough to know some doors must be closed forever. And in that decision, you discover freedom. 5. Never lower your value by apologizing. One of the most powerful weapons a narcissist has isn't sweet words, and it isn't explosive anger. It's their ability to twist reality until you believe every mistake is yours. In their game, you become the perpetual offender and they are the judge. Every time you apologize, every time you lower yourself just to calm their storm, you hand them another piece of power. Narcissists are masters of emotional manipulation. They know how to turn a small issue into a catastrophe just to push you into a corner. They can bend the story, flip the truth, and make you doubt your own memory. How many times have you sat there desperately trying to explain that you didn't mean harm, that it was just a misunderstanding, that you don't deserve to be blamed? And how many times did it still end with you whispering, "I'm sorry," just to end the chaos? The problem is, every unjustified apology strengthens their dominance. To them, your apology isn't just an admission of guilt, it's proof that you need their forgiveness in order to exist. It's like a seal of authority. You willingly sign over the right for them to determine your worth. And once that habit takes root, you fall into a cycle with no exit. The more you apologize, the less value you hold in your own eyes, and the more control they feel entitled to. But here's the truth. In those moments, you are not the one at fault. The mistake isn't yours, it's theirs. They are the ones who manipulated, who inflicted the hurt, who created the scenario just to force responsibility onto you. Your apology doesn't reflect the truth, it only reflects how successful they were at twisting it. So why should you keep lowering yourself to seek forgiveness from someone who never truly valued you in the first place? Your worth is not in their hands. It doesn't depend on whether they acknowledge you, forgive you, or approve of you. You don't exist to please them, and you don't need their validation to prove your value. You are a whole, independent being with dignity and intrinsic worth, and no one has the right to strip that away with false accusations. When you stop giving empty apologies, you reclaim an essential part of your self-respect. Picture a familiar scene. They explode over something trivial. You didn't respond fast enough to a text, or you didn't follow the plan they had in their head. You feel the pressure, afraid their anger will escalate, so you quickly say, "Sorry." In that moment, you think you're putting out a fire, but in reality, you just threw more fuel on it. Because in their mind, your apology proves two things. Yes, you're wrong, and yes, they have the right to judge you. They'll keep using the same tactic because if it worked once, why not repeat it? What needs to change here isn't the way you explain yourself, it's the way you view your own worth. You don't need to prove your innocence by apologizing for things you didn't do. Instead, sometimes silence is the strongest response. When they demand an apology, you don't have to react. When they stage a false narrative, you don't have to play along. Silence in those moments is how you preserve your dignity, refusing to lower yourself into their rigged game. Of course, breaking the apology habit isn't easy. In a manipulated relationship, you've been conditioned to take the blame just to keep a fragile peace. Sometimes saying sorry becomes almost automatic because you fear losing even that temporary calm. But remember, that peace is fake. It's bought at the price of your self-respect. And the painful truth is, the more you give in, the further away real peace slips. Not apologizing doesn't make you cold or unfeeling. It means you've learned to separate what's truly your responsibility from the false guilt they pile onto you. You can still apologize when you're genuinely wrong, when you've truly hurt someone unintentionally, but you no longer apologize just to calm irrational rage or to buy a few minutes of quiet from someone who can never be satisfied. Once you stop lowering yourself, you'll notice a shift. At first, they may be shocked. They're used to your bowed head, and when you finally stand tall, it unsettles them. They may try to ramp up the pressure, through threats, through anger, through emotional explosions, to push you back into your old habit. But if you stay firm, they'll eventually realize that weapon no longer works, and in your firmness you reclaim the self-respect you thought you'd lost. This strategy, at its core, isn't a battle of wits. It's a reminder that you are worthy of respect. You don't need to apologize just to be loved, and you don't need to lower yourself to maintain a relationship that was never healthy to begin with. You exist independently. Your value is not in anyone's hands, especially not a narcissist's. When you stop lowering yourself, you don't just strip them of power, you hand that power back to yourself. 6. Live a happy life without them. After all the strategies to protect yourself from manipulation, there's one final step, simple yet more powerful than all the rest. Live a happy life without them. This isn't about revenge, and it's not about proving you're better. It's a fundamental choice, a declaration that you deserve a life of freedom, peace, and joy, a life where their presence no longer takes up space. A narcissist always believes you'll never truly leave. In their mind, you'll stay trapped in the cycle, always coming back for validation, always craving the love they'll never give. But when you walk away and begin to build happiness of your own, you shatter the biggest illusion they've clung to. They realize the control is gone. They see that you've tapped into your inner strength, and they're forced to face the reality. Your life shines just fine without them. Living happily without them doesn't mean you instantly transform into a brand new person, erasing every memory or wound. It's a process. At first, you'll face emptiness, because attachment to a narcissist often creates emotional dependency. You may feel lonely, even question whether you're making the right choice. But as you patiently take small steps forward, that emptiness slowly fills with things that truly matter. You begin to notice the value of genuine connections, friends who love you without conditions, family who listens without judgment. You learn to enjoy the simple joys, a quiet afternoon with a book, a short trip with a trusted friend, a sunset moment free from anyone's control. These small things carry enormous healing power because they remind you that real happiness never depends on someone else's approval. More importantly, you learn to love yourself. In your time with a narcissist, you may have lost sight of who you are, always blamed, always diminished, but in their absence, you finally get the chance to return to yourself. You rediscover hobbies you once abandoned, reignite dreams that were shut down. You start investing in yourself, caring for your body, nurturing your mind, feeding your soul. Each act is a reminder that you are worthy of love, and the first person who must love you is you. What wounds a narcissist the most isn't your anger, and it isn't your arguments. They're used to those, and sometimes they even thrive on them. But when they see you calm, radiant, and truly happy without them, that's the real blow, because in that moment they know you've broken free of their control. You're no longer their emotional supply, and most of all, they realize they've lost someone they can never replace. A stronger, freer, brighter version of you. Living a happy life without them is the ultimate lesson. Your happiness has never been in someone else's hands. It doesn't depend on whether they come back, whether they're sorry, or whether they change. Happiness is something you create through your choices, through the way you care for yourself, through the courage to walk away from what's unhealthy. Think of life like a book. The chapter with them has ended. It may have been a painful chapter, but the book still has many unwritten pages. Every day you live with joy, you're writing new pages. One's no longer stained with control, but filled with freedom and light. And when you look back, you'll see that what made you stronger wasn't the storm you endured, but your decision to step out of that storm and seek clear skies again. This final strategy may seem gentle, but it's the decisive strike. It doesn't need confrontation, it doesn't need words, it doesn't need revenge. It's simply choosing a different path. The path of freedom and happiness. And in the peace you build for yourself, you don't just find healing. You send out a deeper message. You've broken free, you've become the best version of yourself, and you will never need them to feel whole again.